I want to thank you for joining the Morning Grind podcast here. Just a second, we're going to talk to Kristi Metzger, the newest member of the RotoGrinders team. She's going to talk about some of her live final experiences and basically what she's going to be doing here for RG once sports start happening. That said, we want to thank our friends over there at DraftKings. We partner with DraftKings. The qualifying fantasy golf millionaire contest that starts Thursday, June 11th. Users can compete for the $1 million top prize. The winner will also be awarded with a ticket for free entry into the Fantasy Tournament of Champions Final. The Fantasy Tournament of Champions Final will be held during the big game in Tampa, where users will compete for another $1 million top prize. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. With that, let's get to the pod. Welcome back, RotoGrinders, to the Morning Grind. I'm Dean. I'm not Stevie. Stevie is still busy knocking out his NASCAR content. Of course, if you guys want to hit up his NASCAR content, you know where to do so. We're going to continue our series of interviewing some DFS personalities. We're actually going to introduce somebody new. Let you guys know tomorrow we're going to be talking some golf. The Golf Millionaire Maker is going down. We're going to have Noto on. The next day we're going to have I believe we're going to have MMA. I'm getting my days confused. My apologies. But in my head, I think that's what's going down. But just know this week we'll be talking about some MMA. Of course, there was a money maker for that last week. I'm not really sure what they're going down this week. I think it was 500,000, 600,000, something like that. Notorious, we'll be talking about the golf money maker that will be happening later on this week, Thursday, I believe. That said, we're going to be bringing somebody new here, brand new to the RotoGrinders team. It's Kristi Metzger. What's going on, Kristi?
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here today. Thanks, Dean.
Yeah, you're welcome. I apologize. You know, it's funny. I said pre-show, it's Metzger. And then I just butchered your first name. Why can't I say Kristi? My apologies.
No, it's all good.
We'll fix that in post for sure. We won't. That'll still be on there. Yeah. All right. So if you're not aware, who's Kristi? Who's Kristi Metzger? Let's give the old RotoGrinders profile. Let's check out the resume. Currently, you're ranked 112th for the RG overall ranking, 75th when you talk about the super heavyweight category. NBA ranking, so specific, it's at 79th out of over 30,000 people. For the NFL, it's 107th out of 40,000 people. You have five live finals appearances, but no, it's 2 live final appearances, one where you just had 1 ticket and one where you had 4 tickets. That is an impressive resume. Welcome to the squad, Kristi. We're going to talk about how you got in the DFS and what you're going to be doing here for RotoGrinders.
Sounds great. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really excited and can't wait to be a part of the RotoGrinders team. You guys have been a part of my background really since day one, so I'm very excited.
Awesome. Happy to have you. So, yeah, well, do you know what you're going to be doing yet for RG as far as from a content perspective? That hasn't worked out just yet.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be doing content for kind of the big 3 sports once they start. So with baseball, basketball, and football.
Baseball, we're being optimistic, saying it's going to start at some point based on the news today. But hopefully they can figure that out. But
I hope so.
Or 48 game season or whatever it is, but not worth getting to that. Hopefully, whatever comes eventually, we'll talk some baseball with you. It'll be good times for sure.
Absolutely.
How did you get into DFS? When did you discover it? I know there was an article I was reading about you previously. Of course, you had a season-long league with your family, which we'll get into as well, too. And I'm sure that was a lot of fun, bragging rights and all that. But when did we discover DFS? What year are we talking?
Yeah, so we're talking the end of 2014. I was looking back on that myself. It was probably 2015 when I really got into it. But kind of how it started for me is I've always been a season-long player. I mean, back in, 99, 2000, back when we were doing it without, really much of internet involvement where you're still kind of writing down the stats and things like that. But it's something I've always done. I grew up with 3 brothers. We're all kind of a huge sports family. One of my brothers in particular, he and I are always doing leagues and, enjoying that. Then when I got into work, I work in the wealth management side at a bank. And I always had some work leagues there. And so, I'd always have like 5 to 7 season-long leagues. And I actually happened to be talking to one of my friends in the accounting department at our bank. And he's actually the one that turned me on to the DFS aspect of it. He said, as much as you love season long, you should really get into, you probably heard of FanDuels and DraftKings, but he said, I've started a FanDuel account, and he kind of explained how it worked. And that's actually how I got started, and just kind of started dabbling with it a little bit in that first year. But I haven't looked back ever since.
And it was just for entertainment, right? I assume when you first started,
Just
you
for
weren't
entertainment.
finding thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Dipping your toes in.
It was for entertainment. And, he had good advice early on, talked about, even the cash game approach. So I played a lot of cash games early on, especially for football. And I didn't even get into baseball and basketball until later, a couple years down the road.
Your general approach as far as lineup construction, are you more of a cash game type? Are you more of a,
I am.
bring on the variance when it comes to tournaments?
Yeah, you know what? A little bit of both, but I do put together. I don't do the MMA. I typically build maybe like 5 to 6 lineups. But I usually have 1 or 2 that are kind of my main lineups, and I would consider my cash game lineups, and those are the ones that I'll enter into tournaments and such too. So yeah, I don't play a ton of lineups, that's for sure.
Yeah, I see in 2018, out of over 17,000 people, $250 buy-in. You finished second there in FanDuel. There's another one where we'll talk about as well, where you finished, I believe, second in a Million Maker, correct?
Correct. Actually, that one that you're just talking about, that was a millionaire contest where I came in second due to a stat correction.
Oh man, it's the worst. Yeah, I was reading that in the article. It was the Sioux Falls article.
Yes.
And it's a tricky way. Life is about expectations, right?
It is.
When you're expecting $1 million and you get like $400,000, but $400,000 is amazing. And it's something we're talking about.
It is.
So many hours beforehand.
I know.
What's the emotional, the roller coaster of like settling for $400K?
It was the strangest day, Dean. I was at my brother Tyson's house. We were watching the games together, and I had actually acquired some of those $250 tickets in some satellite contests. And so that's how I got into the contest. And I don't know if you remember back, but that was the highest total of that week by far was the New England Patriots and Steelers game. That was a really big marquee game of the week. And so a lot of people built lineups around that game. I ended up going a little bit different approach. I had some of the Falcons. I had, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, and had Chris Carson. So I had a few players that were definitely under-owned in this particular contest. And, I was doing well a good chunk of the day. And then, kind of the second half of the games, things started getting really exciting quickly. And I actually moved up into the top spot for $1 million and was there for probably a good, 7 to 8 minutes. I mean, I was sweating out the last few games, and coincidentally, Jeff Collins is the one that ended up winning the $1 million, and I ended up getting second place. But I actually had no idea there was anything that there would be a stat correction until it was an hour and a half later when I actually happened to notice it on my phone. And so, yeah, what a roller coaster for sure of emotion.
Jeff L. Hefe put a call in. He knows somebody in the NFL or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you remember what the correction was, or it was like not even worth exploring?
What I think happened, I'm not positive, but Chris Carson had gotten hurt for one play, and he had gone out, and I believe they put Rashad Penny in, and I think Chris Carson got credited for the yards that he had. So I think that's what it was. And it was very, very small. It was just, like 1.5 yards that, kind of did the difference there. So. Was
there any extravagant purchases when you win $400K? And
no.
And again, nothing.
Yeah, no, I really didn't. It's, like my background is investing and wealth management. And so I'm just very, very focused on that. And so I've honestly invested it and haven't really done anything that I would say is extravagant.
Yeah, I mean, you can order the guac. You can add the guac for a couple extra dollars or something like
That's
that.
Right.
I don't know. Splurge that night. Sure, have a good time. Hit up the Red Box or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's walk back to high school. You were big into sports when you were younger. You were big into volleyball and basketball.
Yep, I was. Yep, I played both of those sports. Was very good at those sports. So everything that I've done is pretty much revolved around sports, going to my brothers. And now, I have a lot of nieces and nephews that are involved in sports and baseball and things like that. So yeah, there's pretty much not a day that doesn't go by that we're not doing something with sports. That's for sure.
Who's your game comped after? Who's your NBA comp or a WNBA comp?
Yeah, I was such a Michael Jordan fan. I mean, and who isn't? But I mean, I remember getting my first pair of Jordan shoes when I was playing basketball in high school. And so watching his documentary has been pretty fun.
Yeah, that was good times for sure. And yeah, so and did you go on to explore as far as college for sports athletics?
I didn't. I didn't end up playing in college, but yeah, I think, after college, that's really when, I kind of discovered some of the season long and some of the other things that were out there. And that kind of, helped fulfill some of the things from not playing sports, I guess.
Talk to me about the season long with your family, and I'm sure it's lots of rivalries, and they're probably all asking you for like advice, which is like, hey, I'm playing against you. I don't want to give you any advice as far as this week.
Yeah, that's the funny part is we started it maybe 5 years ago or so, and that year, so my brother Matt, he's not really into the fantasy sports, and then he has a couple of sons that are, they're getting into it. So the first year, I mean, I won easily, but I felt like it really wasn't that fair because they were just getting into it. I tell you what, now everyone to win that trophy is a really big deal. So everyone's working hard and scrambling to try to figure out things. And my nephews have really gotten into it too. So yeah, it's probably one of my most competitive leagues for sure.
Is that the trophy next to you? I see some sort of trophy next to you.
It isn't actually. My nephew Maddox won it this year, so he has it at his house. So I don't have bragging rights this year.
Do you find yourself conflicted when, like, for DFS, if something happens, you can win like $100,000, or if something else happens, you could win the week versus your nephew?
That's funny because that has happened before. But it's always it's definitely made it different. Whereas DFS, obviously, there's been times where I could either win a championship or I could maybe win a few $1,000s, and you're like, yeah, there's definitely a kind of a weird take on it.
Yeah, well, your family members care a lot more about the season long, and you're like, yeah. I hope you win. I'm rooting for you because
I'm actually rooting for you too.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of how that works. Live finals, was it always in you to kind of chase the live finals? You hit it a couple of times. 2018. Yeah. 2019, you had 4 tickets to the baseball live final.
I did.
Talk about how you got your first live final.
My first live final was, I'll never forget it. And it's kind of a joke for me too, where I've seemed to win a lot of my big tournaments and contests, either on like birthdays or holidays or something significant. It's just been kind of wild. But it was Memorial Day weekend last year, and we were actually at my brother Matt's house. We were having a grill out, and my brother Tyson that I was telling you about, he and I do a lot of sports stuff together. I had told him, I said, boy, I really like this slate. And I said, they're running a couple of qualifiers, and I think I'm going to give it a shot. And I can remember my exact lineup and everything. I ended up going a little bit cheaper at pitcher. I used Tyler Skaggs. And then I had, there was a Coors game, which, a lot of times I'll maybe end up fading those types of games, but they were playing Baltimore. And so I decided to take some of the Baltimore guys. They're always under-owned. And it allowed me to get the Dodgers. So I had like Bellinger and Jock Peterson and Muncy and Seager. And the first games, the Dodgers game was late. And so it started out, all of my guys in the Coors game were just doing great, hitting home runs. And so I vaulted up there pretty quickly. And, by the time we left, I told Tyson, I said, I think I've got a shot. If the Dodgers do all right and Skaggs pitches fine, I think I've got a shot. Well, I ended up going home, and my brother Tyson ended up falling asleep during it. I was texting him, so I was kind of sweating this thing out by myself. And I ended up having a pretty good lead at the end where it looked like I was going to win it pretty easily. It wasn't like a huge sweat at the end, but yeah, I was thrilled because it was one of my goals. I'm a pretty goal-oriented person and wrote down a lot of goals, and that was definitely one of them, getting to a live final. So I was pretty excited.
Dave Robertson screw you over? He didn't like pinch hit for your guy like three different times?
Right. I know it. And actually that did happen actually, but thankfully I didn't need it. But yeah, you're so right on that.
Doc Peterson probably did not play the complete game. I'm just going to wager on that.
You were exactly right. But
if he gets 2 homers the first 2 times, I guess it doesn't matter, I suppose.
Yep, he did. And he did hit a home run right away. So at least got some points out of him early.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Were they both live finals for baseball? I thought one was for football. Is that not correct?
Football was the FanDuel Fan Championship.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was it wasn't a live one, but it was the Fan Championship is what they called it.
Okay, yeah, and you won 4 tickets. You didn't win all 4 tickets that one night, right? As far as 4 tickets winning to the final there? There's different stories, I suppose.
Yeah, you mean for the baseball?
Yeah, like you ended up with 4 tickets.
Nope. Yep. So I won that one, and then I won the second one on the 4th of July, and that's actually kind of a funny story too, because my family and I, we have a place in Okoboji, Iowa, and last year you couldn't play DFS in Iowa. Now you can.
Yeah.
So we're down there and actually, kind of looking at the slate, and I'm like, God, I really like this slate too. But of course, you can't play. So I ended up driving 15 minutes away just so that I could put my lineup in and set it. And I didn't even know until the next morning that I had won. We got going doing some different family stuff, and we were swimming and going. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I used that lineup obviously in some tournaments and stuff, and just had one heck of a night. And I remember calling Tyson too, going, "Oh my gosh, I just acquired my second ticket." And it's really hard to believe.
You weren't kidding about Narrative Street. You keep winning on those holidays.
I know. I know. Exactly.
All right. So you get that a live final. You have 4 tickets, I believe, out of like 125, 128 or something like that.
Correct.
What was that experience like?
Honestly, it was probably one of the most memorable weekends that I've had in my life. And I mean, I've had a lot of great memories for sure, but it was everything I would hoped it would be, for a sports fan to be able to go and be around people that love to do the same thing that you do. And then to get to do, you're treated first class, for sure. It was in San Diego. And so, they had a concert, and we got to go to the Padres game. They played the Red Sox. And so we sat in the outfield and had a chance to interact with a lot of the players. And, I was able to bring my brother Tyson and a couple friends with. And so we still talk about it to this day, saying, it was one of the best experiences we've had.
You can bring the whole family, the whole block. You had like all these.
I know, right? Yeah, I know it. Exactly.
You were everybody's best friend that week for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
They're all lobbying to get a spot. Nice ballpark in San Diego, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and great weather, of course, as well too.
Great weather, exactly.
Did you meet anybody out there? Any interesting anecdote or people you're talking about in the industry? People you see, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of schmoozing, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. Yeah, no, I did. I mean, I got to meet several people. Jeff Collins and I connected and kind of just shared stories of our sweating out the $1 million contest. Of course,
you $600,000.
Yeah, exactly. But in all honesty, it's like you said, if you would have told me you're going to win $400,000 at the beginning of the day, you'd be thrilled. So it was all good. Met a lot of fantastic people for sure, and you just meet a lot of people. I had a lot of people come up to me just to say, hey, we're just like you, like we're working. I met a couple of doctors actually that are kind of just doing this for fun, and it was fun to hear everybody's story about how they got into it and how they approach it.
Yeah, and you're involved in banking, and I guess that's no surprise. There's kind of a Venn diagram. I had Cards on the other day, who's an accountant, and Grant Niefer was on the other day, who has an accounting background, and math and numbers is a cross section with sports, right? And
it is. Yeah. I always think too, like with baseball, I think what really got me into the baseball part of DFS was what I enjoyed was, you almost kind of looking for some of the values to make everything work in your lineup by being able to put more stars in there and things like that. And, almost like you're buying a stock or buying, that type of thing. So a lot of correlation.
Stock trading for the day is basically all what DFS is, and the building of the puzzle. And you can talk about you have to do it by hand, I suppose. You're not into like a, what is make 150, click a button, that kind of thing. And obviously there's more to it. I'm not trying to devalue that, but I'm the same way. I enjoy the challenge of the puzzle.
I do too. And I've always been a puzzler, a gamer, and things like that. So it really fits with what I enjoy to do.
When people ask you about it at work, or I guess words out, and also, there's an article in the paper, so people are aware. What do they say? Are they surprised that they knew this was a thing? Are they not surprised?
I think some people were surprised. I think, the people that were closest to me know my passion for sports, so some weren't surprised. But yeah, I think there were a lot of people that were surprised, but the article was received very positively. I had a lot of people come up to me to say, wow, this is really incredible. And, and I think, of course, there's a lot of females in sports, but, there's not a lot of probably, females like myself that are, super, super passionate about this day in and day out. So I was able to kind of find some people in Sioux Falls, some other women that were like, hey, we have interest in this too. How did you get started? And, how do you recommend we get started? Because it is something that's fun, and it can kind of build relationships and things like that as well.
How do you end up in Sioux Falls? Is that where you're born and raised?
Pretty much. I grew up in Hills, Minnesota, which is in the very southwest corner of the state of Minnesota. So I went to college up at Concordia College in Moorhead, Minnesota, and then came back to Sioux Falls, just a half hour away from where I grew up. And pretty much I've been there ever since.
I knew you were in Sioux Falls. I've never been to Sioux Falls. I've never been to either of the Dakotas. I've never, I don't know what I'm missing out on. What am I missing out on? Apparently it's big for fishing and hunting. Is that?
It is. Yeah. Fishing and hunting is phenomenal. And I'm actually on the eastern side of the state, but on the western side of the state, of course, is, the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore, which is a huge attraction. But, the business climate is fantastic in Sioux Falls, and there's really no better place to raise a family and just a super city. So, I mean, if you guys ever get a chance, it really is worth seeing.
Yeah. I mean, one of these days, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
It's on the list. Is that fly fishing territory? Is that like Montana?
That's more probably Montana, but there's a lot of great fishing in our state. And Minnesota, tons of lakes in Minnesota too, and we're really close. And actually where I'm at, I'm just a few miles away from Minnesota and a few miles away from Iowa. So really right on the border.
Yeah, I hear the Minnesota. I don't know, at least the way Minnesota accent sounds in my head. I hear it comes out in a few words.
Yeah.
I don't want to, I was going to say Fargo, but that's totally different. And people probably confuse those all the time. And how ignorant of me. But as far as sporting, you have a lot of minor league teams in that area, correct?
We do. Yeah. There are some minor league teams, and like with basketball too, we have the Sioux Falls Skyforce and we have the Sioux Falls Canaries for baseball and things like that. So yeah, we have a little bit of some of the minor league action.
Yeah. The Skyforce, that's I'm a Miami Heat fan. So that's my affiliation. I don't know why they ended up in the Dakotas.
I know.
It seems far away, but
it does. It does. But yeah, actually I enjoy going to those games because there's a lot of talent that comes through there. I was thinking a few years ago, I was just sitting there watching Malik Beasley, for instance, playing, and then he goes on to Denver, and then, he's with the Timberwolves, and it's like, yeah, there's some pretty good talent that comes through.
Minnesota Twins, that's your team. I was looking at your Twitter. I was trying to find research.
Yeah.
You got a big old bobblehead collection.
I do.
Like 60 or so.
I have a ton of bobbleheads. Yes, I do. Yeah.
Minnesota Twins exclusive, or you branch out?
I like other teams. Certainly, DFS, that's one of the things that it really opens you to other players and really appreciate other teams too. I'll always be a diehard Twins fan, but yeah, I've certainly been more open to other experiences too and other teams.
Your favorite Twin of all time?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I'd have to say like Kirby Puckett and those guys, because I grew up watching them as a kid, and actually like Ken Turbeck and Tim Laudner, they come back to Sioux Falls quite a bit. And so it's hard not to like those guys. Yeah,
that's who I was. I figured Puckett was the chalk, and maybe Turbeck, and who was the other guy? Was Gary Gaetti. How about
Gary Gaetti? Yep.
Gary 11. We can keep doing this.
Purple 11. I know Tom Bernansky, and yeah, exactly. There's a lot of those guys that were fantastic.
Bert's still the color analyst. Is he still circling people on TV? Is that?
I think so. As far as I know, yeah. Circling Bert.
I think that's still a thing. I haven't been to that ballpark, but that ballpark looks amazing.
Oh, it is. Yeah. If you get a chance to, it'd be worth going to see. It's a fantastic stadium and kind of a good home run from. I went to a couple games last summer, and yeah, it's a great place for sure.
Do you have a favorite like at the game moment of all time? Any sport?
Oh boy, that's a great question. Not that I can think of. Nothing that really stands out, but yeah, Target Field. I went to a lot of games, of course, in the Metrodome before they had the Target Field, but Target Field is definitely something special.
What was the Metrodome like? That big old, like that garbage bag in the outfield.
I know. Yeah, I know. That was, yeah, pretty strange for sure.
That picture of Puckett jumping up in the garbage bag, and was there plexiglass then or no plexiglass? I don't recall, but that's just sort of the image I have in my head of that stadium.
I don't remember actually, but yeah.
Minnesota across the board. You like the T-Wolves as well?
Yep, like the T-Wolves and like the Vikings. So my brothers are all Chicago Bears fans. I'm not really sure why. I think it was because Walter Payton and, they kind of fell in love with him. But I'm across the board from Minnesota for sure.
Yeah, and you venture out to those games as well too, or not so much? How far away is it too far away or not too far away?
No, it's only 3.5 hours away from me to get to the city. So yeah, it's a pretty easy trip for sure.
Yeah, that's I'm just trying to think of any other Minnesota. Hockey you don't care for? Not your thing?
Hockey, I didn't really grow up watching hockey, although I do enjoy watching it, and I've probably the last couple of years I've probably gotten into it a little bit more. I have a good friend of mine that really loves hockey DFS. So, I mean, it's almost a little bit similar to baseball, you know, and doing some stacking and things like that. So yeah, it's growing on me.
Your DFS name, Krayton? What is that?
Yeah.
What's the origin of that?
I know. So it's kind of a funny story. I mean, you know, you put your name out there for DFS, you know, you never thinking that is really going to mean something or people are going to ask you about it. But actually my first nephew that was born right when I got out of college, and his name is Peyton. And so I just did kind of a combination of my name and his name and used it for my email address, and then just started using it for DFS and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, you never really know. Mine's just my stupid college email, and it's like,
is that what it was? Yeah. Me too. Yeah, exactly. Same deal. Yep.
Just sort of married to that. I guess at this point, I'm pot committed, I suppose.
That's right.
Nebraska? You're a Nebraska fan? Is this correct?
You know what? Okay, yeah, you probably saw a Nebraska basketball picture out there. So the bank that I work for, we have some branches in Omaha. And so at different times we had a leadership meeting there. And so we got to attend some games in Lincoln and yeah, go to some college games. So
I'm pulling up as far as your recent activity. I guess you haven't been playing much. I see
I haven't been playing as much.
Yeah. All the fringe stuff you're not really into? Not as much?
Yeah, not as much. Golf, though, I have the Outlaw Golf Tournament, you know, that they ran on DK. Kind of funny story about that is a lot of those players actually come and play through Sioux Falls. We have like a Pro-Am jam during the summer time. And so like Brady Culkins and John Trasmar and Kristi Metzger, a lot of those guys played, and I've seen them play. And so I actually, was it last week, ended up winning several contests in golf. They probably haven't posted on there yet, but ended up winning quite a few contests for Outlaw. So I'm kind of bummed that one's probably going away.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to Noto about this. You know, he's big into golf, and
yeah,
we did a show about Outlaw, and I don't know I don't think about regular golf. It's like not my thing. I'm aware of some of the names, but you know, I'm kind of lost for the most part. Apparently, you just need to buy your way in. You might need a tour course. Yes. I'm not really sure.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And a lot of these guys, you know, spend a lot of money, and the top prize pool, you know, you can win more in DFS than you can the top prize for these guys. But yeah, I have great respect for what Noto does on the PGA side, and Tyler too. I do enjoy it and am getting into it for sure. But yeah, I definitely know more about Outlaw than I do the PGA.
I was trying to craft let's buy in for $900, and it costs you $900 for DK to give you a price. Like, I mean, I'm a terrible golfer, but it'd be hilarious to do.
Yeah.
And then somebody would like tweet at me how angry they are. You know, you golfed like at 200 and really blew up my team. It's like, well, why are you rostering me? I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't have a tour card, so that was my idea for very briefly until I realized looking at a tour card. So much of that idea. I saw a picture of you. I'm not sure if it was in your house or not. With a table tennis setup behind you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, but in the RotoGrinders office, I haven't been there for a while, obviously for reasons. In the RotoGrinders office, there is a table tennis offer. You know, right there. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
I did not know that.
Very, very seriously. Do you want to throw it down? Do you want to make a challenge to everybody else?
Let's do it. When we get out there, let's do it.
How strong is your table tennis game?
I would say it's average. It's not strong, but I'm all about it. So hey, let's do it. Next time we're out there, let's go for it.
They're really good. They're working, of course, too. But yeah, like when you'll hear the table tennis fire up, like, you know, just every once in a while, and they take it very seriously.
Okay.
Well, it's sports competitive people, so it just makes sense.
Well, see, that's just it. I was gonna say, you put all of us competitive people in a room, and yeah, it could be pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a basketball hoop there too. It's not regulation, obviously. It's like a Nerf basketball hoop, that kind of thing. But there you go. I guess in the RG party, that's inevitably going to happen in theory next Super Bowl, more or less.
That sounds like my kind of room, that's for sure.
And then they'll play some beer pong as well too if you want to partake. I'm not sure if that's your thing, but there you go. Find yourself a good teammate. You're a strong free agent.
Awesome.
What do we? I noticed you mentioned banking. That's like the whole economy there in Sioux Falls. Like that's for whatever reason, that's a really popular thing in that area.
It is. We. I mean, a lot of people would probably say we're overbanked. I mean, we have a lot of banks. It's probably 30 plus banks in Sioux Falls. One of the big reasons, like in my area, wealth management, I came up on the trust and wealth management side. South Dakota has very good trust laws. So you see a lot of people that have significant wealth, like billionaire type wealth, that will establish their trust in South Dakota. So that's gotten to be a really big thing. And, that's been a career for me just because of it. So
I'm sure you've had opportunities before, but why now are you saying, let's go ahead and why are you embracing doing content for DFS? Why is this something you want to do?
So for me, I just enjoy it so much. And like when I'm, on the weekends for me, for fun, when I'm putting together, my process and such, I figured now's a good time. I'd love to share what I'm doing. I have a lot of people ever since really that story came out about me last year, to have a lot of people that contact me on the weekends, especially during football season, to say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about that? I mean, it's gotten to be a pretty big group. And I thought, I do feel like I have a lot that I can offer, maybe to the average person. And if it resonates, hopefully that's a good thing. So I just thought the timing was right.
You know what it is? Now it's like when anybody asks you, it's like, look, just check out my article. I don't
Exactly. I know it, right? Just read my article. You got to subscribe.
Just drop them a link and it's so much easier. I don't want to answer every one of your questions. Check out my article.
Exactly.
Because I'm sure managing family, managing those questions, managing work, putting in lineups. Yep. It's a balance. How do you handle that balance?
That's a good question. I mean, everything's all about balance too. And like I said, this started out as a hobby for me. And then, I've always been really successful at it. And it's one of those things that I just, especially during the last 3 months when, my 3 major sports are not playing and such, it kind of gives you a chance to kind of figure out how things look once they start up again. And I don't know. I just think there's room for it because it's something that I do anyways. So it's not that I will have to devote a lot more time to it. I'm already going through the process and analyzing the numbers and writing down a lot of thoughts and things like that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's actually been something that's been in the back of my mind for maybe the last year or so, to say, hey, I'd enjoy doing something like this. It's just, like I said, I'm goal oriented and have a lot of things that I want to accomplish. And this was one of them.
What's the next big goal?
Well, the big goal for me is, after you get that close to 1 million, it's like, all right, hey, it would be fun to get close to that, or, maybe win a live final or something like that. Those are a couple things that are out there. That's for sure.
Yeah. The live final thing is tricky because a lot of people love the idea of, hey, I can spend $5, $10, $20 and turn it into 1 million, but they're so top heavy and they're so top loaded. Yep. And you talk to people and you ask them, like, one of the first things I ask the people is, what do you want to do? What's your goal here? And like, you trying to make money, you want to have fun, you want just some entertainment, because you're probably not going to win that live final. You're probably not going to get to it. I'm not wishing it against them.
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And that's why for me, it's been one of those things that I just kind of started, a year and a half ago, of saying, okay, I want to make this a goal, and, set aside some of the proceeds that you have from other contests to really devote to some of the live finals. And as a matter of fact, I did qualify for DK's NBA live final that was supposed to be in March, of course. And I know they're trying to figure that out right now. So I will have the opportunity to do that once basketball resumes again. So
do we know what's going to happen with that? They just give you the value of the ticket, I suppose, or?
Well, no, they're going to still hold the contest. In fact, I just got an email from them either today or yesterday. They have like 7 different scenarios of how they want to do it. And you're supposed to kind of vote on what you want to do. They only have 84 of the positions filled out of the 100. And so they still have to hold some qualifiers yet to get the other 16 people in.
So is it going to be on location, or that's one of the options they're trying to figure out?
I don't know that. They didn't even mention that. I'm assuming it's probably not, but it was supposed to be in New York, but I have no idea what they'll do now, or if it will be something that you just have to do at home, or I don't know.
Yeah. And I would assume they would put that money that would be for the, what it would cost to hold it back into the tournament, maybe?
I would think so. Yeah. You'd think so. I don't know. That's a great question. I've been wondering that too, but yeah, that is certainly something that will be coming up later.
Your Timberwolves are one of the few teams that are out, right? Like they did not make the cut of the top 22 or 24?
Correct. Yeah. They've not looked good here this past year. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's always next year, I suppose. Do you have Cat long-term signed? I think you do. I could be wrong about this.
I think so. Yeah. I'm not positive. I'm pretty sure we do, but yeah, hopefully we do.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there's always next year, I suppose. You're talking about the last 3 months. Some people have had more time on their hands. Some people haven't, depending on. Have you had more time on your hands? Have you been like hitting up the Netflix? What have you been up to?
Yeah. So for me, I've been working a lot more from home, which has been crazy for me too, because I mean, I've always been in the office, and for me, my business is meeting with clients and, helping them with their investments and trusts and things like that. So I was wondering, how is this going to look? So I've been doing a lot more Zoom video calls, and I've actually been fairly busy, more busy at work than I anticipated, even with everything going on. So I've been busy doing that, just kind of refocusing on, spending a ton of time with family. I know my nephew, it's senior year, and he's just starting baseball. And we actually just had some baseball tournaments here in Sioux Falls this last weekend, which I can't even tell you how great it was just to go and see actual games. And we had some people that drove from Washington because they aren't able to play in that state. And so they're just looking for places to get out. And there's some teams from Wisconsin. So that's just interesting to see things kind of start to get back going again and things like that. But it's been a good break. It's helped me just in my mind to, just kind of think about what the next stage looks like. And one of them, like I said, was looking at content, and being able to be a part of the RotoGrinders team is something I'm just really looking forward to.
Do you know what you're doing yet as far as written or audio or video, or it's a combination, or you just
I think it's a combination, just trying to figure that out. So I think once the sports resume, kind of probably a little bit of each and trying to figure that part out. So
you mentioned working in your job. What's the worst job you ever had? Have you ever had a terrible job?
Let's see, worst job I ever had. Well, I spent a lot of my summer. So I grew up on a farm, and we did a lot of walking beans, and picking up rocks and things like that in the field. So it wasn't terrible, but it's not glamorous or anything like that.
What's walking beans? What is that?
Walking beans. So you're like walking beans, spraying the weeds that are in the beans. And then, after that, they actually got bean riders that you'd put on front of a tractor. So then that was actually great, because then you could sit on that and you could actually just spray the weeds from while you're riding instead of having to walk.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've lived different lives. I'm curious.
We lived totally different lives. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, no, growing up on a farm is definitely an experience. So there's kind of a lot of interesting hard work.
What were the pros and cons of growing up on a farm?
You know what? The pros, honestly, I had a great childhood, and we had so much fun. I mean, you're outside all day during the summer, and even in the winter, we raised hogs and cattle, and actually we talked my dad into getting all kinds of animals. I mean, we had sheep and calves, and my brother talked him into getting pheasants, and I mean, we had all kinds of stuff for a while. It was almost like a little zoo.
They all get names?
Yeah. Oh, we'd always try to, that's for sure. I mean, we would have some different names, and, but yeah, it was, I mean, it honestly was great. And, we didn't get into town all that much. We lived probably 3 miles away from our hometown, which was only 500 people anyways. But yeah, it was a very quiet, good life.
Lots of gossip, right? 500 people, small town.
Lots of gossip. That works? Yes. I do not miss that. Everybody knows everything.
You can't get away with anything.
Can't get away with anything. Yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah. Wow. So going forward, DFS, man, it's going to be, I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy you joined the team here at RotoGrinders, and I don't know if we're going to be working together. I look forward to it if we are. Who knows if we'll cross paths? I imagine we will in some capacity.
Right.
Welcome to RotoGrinders. Welcome to the content side. Feel free to say, whatever, if anybody wants to contact you, or your socials, whatever you want to put out there, and let them know where they can hit you up.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is @Krayton12, KRAYTON12. So hit me up on Twitter. Love Twitter. It's so great to get information, especially on the sports side of things. As you know, it seems like everything useful comes across there.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny because I have another interview later on today. We're adding another edition, and I'm going to be interviewing somebody that, unless they have like a burner account, that has never tweeted and just created a Twitter like this week.
Oh, so, seriously?
I'm like, how does this happen?
How does this happen?
How do you play DFS and not have a Twitter account?
I know. Yeah, that's one of the things that for getting information, and especially, like with NBA or different things. I mean, it's amazing the things that you can find out there that you really need, and especially like with weather related concerns and things like that too. Twitter's a must.
Any weather person in particular come to mind?
Well, I love listening to your weatherman, Kevin.
Just wanted to go that one. Yeah,
he's great.
I always was giving him a hard time because he's doing currently giving weather on simulation for Madden games right now.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
Yeah, on DraftKings, like DK is giving it out, like he's giving like, well, it's snowing here in Kansas City, so pretty amusing. And I always like the fact that he's the chief meteorologist as opposed to like, he's the only meteorologist.
He's the only meteorologist,
but he's the chief meteorologist.
The chief one.
I don't know why I'm taking fun shots at Roth, but Kristi, I must enjoy. I enjoyed your time. I enjoyed the conversation. And I look forward to your content here at RotoGrinders. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dean. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. This was the Morning Grind. That was Kristi. I was Dean. Thanks for listening. We're out of here. Holler.